Inconceivable!
Will you please act like you have more than a two-word vocabulary?
Is there air? You don't know.
And now, a yak.
Yeah.
Hey, don't touch that dial. You found secular yakking.
I'm Robert.
And I'm Amy.
After years,
No, many years of yakking at each other.
we're here to yak at you.
So sit back and enjoy the yakking.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a wonderful, slightly over a week.
Just barely. We're not doing too shabby.
We had some technical issues, and
We
did.
If you
because
want.
technically we couldn't get to the show.
I was going to say, what technical? Technically, we couldn't get to the show. So
That's a technical
But
issue.
We've gone 2 weeks, so this is that's far less than that. So
Yeah.
We're good. We're
Yeah,
good.
I guess.
We're working on it.
Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
I guess we should get on with the show.
That's usually what we're here for.
All right, let's go to Arizona.
Shall we?
Yes.
Actually, I wouldn't mind that at all.
Maybe later this year. I don't know.
It's very scenic, and I want to go.
It's too
again,
hot.
We've been there several times, but again, it's just friendly atheist.
Well, Arizona Republicans are pushing Bill SB 1269 that would allow volunteer chaplains in public schools following similar Texas laws in Texas and Florida.
Yes, because that's a good idea. Follow Texas and Florida.
Yeah. So this story came to us from Friendly Atheist.
Right.
Yep.
Mhm.
I suggest you follow him. He's got great YouTube, good blog.
Yeah.
Covers a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of the same stuff we do.
Yeah, we're kind of on the same par. Kind of started in the same. No, did he start when we were
Well,
ending?
He was a blogger for a long time while we were doing the show.
Right.
And right about the time we stopped the show is
Uh-huh.
when he started doing his
like
podcast and YouTube.
like video and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when he started doing more.
Right.
Than
Which
just-
we are looking into doing video in the somewhat near future. Possibly still working on that, thoughts and ideas and.
Well, we have the equipment. We just got to actually do it.
Well,
Anyways,
there's other things we got to do first, but yeah, continue.
so back to this.
Yes.
So
that's
this
what we're here
bill,
for.
this bill is sponsored by State Senator Wendy Rogers, who's known for her white nationalist views, which is raising concerns due to its potential to replace trained counselors with religious figures.
Which is insanely insane.
So this bill allows parents to choose chaplains for their children from a list, but critics argue, including us,
Yes.
that training does not equate to professional counseling.
Absolutely not.
ACLU of Arizona warns that chaplains may not be equipped to handle serious mental issues like anxiety, depression, or suicidal ideation, and could harm vulnerable students, including and especially LGBTQ.
Well, I was going to say especially.
Right?
I mean, honestly, if you think about it, though, they really couldn't handle a teenage depression either.
No.
I mean...
What are they going to do? Say, go pray? Because that's exactly what they're going to do.
And we all know how praying helps so much
Yeah.
and answers so many things. The problem with this, absolutely, the fact that they are not professionally trained. But not only are they not professionally trained, they are not professionally trained to handle children. Particularly, it's going to be geared more so with teenagers and young children as well. And, you know, things that they're having problems with and depression about. And they don't know how to handle that. Children's minds are not fully developed, and what the problem's going to lie is when they have, like, say, a chaplain giving them advice and whatnot, and they aren't trained how to handle it properly. They're going to be giving advice that these kids are going to be looking at them as a form of authority and
Right.
take it wholeheartedly, and they most likely will be giving them misinformation.
Right.
And it could actually end disastrously.
It will end disastrously.
Yeah, it absolutely will. And I don't care what anyone says, it will. Because kids deal with, you know, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, so many things, and it's their entire world. Because if you remember, when you're a kid, You live in the moment. You don't
Yeah.
see tomorrow or the days to come or whatever. Everything is now. The world revolves around now. The intensity is now. So I think this is a horrifically terrible idea.
Right. In addition to be a terrible idea for the mental health of children, it's also a violation of separation of church and state.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah, that thing.
But no, and that's also another point. Why do we constantly keep wasting our time with these things? It's unconstitutional. Why is it even being drawn up?
Yep.
Well, okay, I do know the answer to that because
Yeah.
we know who's sitting on the throne right now.
The throne. Well, if you had any questions of whether this was unconstitutional, just listen to what some of the people who support the bill said.
Mm-hmm.
This is State Representative David Marshall.
Are there some good psychologists? I'm sure there are. But I think Jesus is a lot better than any psychologist. So for those reasons, I vote aye.
So Jesus
Are you?
is better than any psychologist.
Then what is he doing in a position that he is in? What is he doing there? Because that is unconstitutional, and he is holding a seat of power. Get out of the seat.
Yep.
Because that's bullshit. He should be holding up the goddamn Constitution. He can do whatever the hell he wants on his own personal time. Believe in frickin' bubble fairy. I don't care.
Yep.
But you don't bring that, aka to work, aka to a power seat, you know?
I know.
It's just insane. And it's getting extremely exhausting and irritating at how many people are bringing all of these unconstitutional things, just one after another, and we all know why they're doing it.
Yes, we do.
And in the meantime, if you think about it, we're not getting a goddamn thing done
Nothing.
because we're too busy fighting shit that shouldn't have even been brought up in the first place.
Right.
It is a complete waste of time. But as far as doing this stupid idea, it's horrifically awful and will have catastrophic results from it.
And there are other opinions. State Representative Matt Gress.
I can't tell you how much this committee and me personally, I've heard that there is a mental health crisis afflicting kids. Now, I don't necessarily think in many of these cases that something is medically wrong with kids. I think perhaps there is a spiritual deficit that needs to be addressed.
So there you go.
A spiritual deficit?
Spiritual deficit, yes.
Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
So there's not enough believers is what he is complaining about.
That is exactly what he's complaining about.
And bringing it to schools is where we need to be bringing it. Is that his thoughts?
Yeah, so basically he's saying you need more Jesus in your life.
Right.
That's exactly what he's saying.
And so that's supposed to help children and their mental health.
So one of the problems I have with it, well, let's get into a couple of the amendments to this bill. Okay. So first there's the one, which is chaplains would require a graduate degree in counseling or theology, right?
What does theology have to do with anything?
I don't know.
That's a waste.
Or 7 years of experience. You don't even have to have a degree of
working
leading,
with kids or just being a chaplain.
Being a chaplain.
That's not experience. I don't give a shit what you say.
Yeah.
It should be 7 years of experience with kids.
Yep. And
not just being a chaplain.
And it gets worse. 2 years of experience with local religious group. So not only do you have to have 7 years of experience, you have to have 2 years of experience with a local religious group.
So like if you just move there, that doesn't count.
Right. Or
go ahead.
Or even worse, if you have a minority religion that doesn't have a congregation in that school district.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So basically, you have to go be in their circle, their personal circle. So they're basically creating this for particularly who they want.
Right.
And I don't mean particularly, I mean specifically, like I want Chaplain John. and I'm going to write this bill in a worded way that I get Chaplain John.
And it gets even worse.
Okay.
So they have defined that it has to be a religious group, right? Not
Okay.
just a religion, right? But that meets certain criteria. So it's led, supervised, or counseled by a hierarchy of teachers, clergy, sages, or priests. Okay. Has to be led by an actual person. Acknowledges the existence and worships one or more supernatural entities that possess power over the natural world, right?
So,
Has to believe in a God.
right, that's what I was just
So
getting ready to say.
you've just taken out all humanist. You've taken out Buddhist,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a couple other minor religions. Taking out Satanist.
Mm-hmm.
Most Satanists, right? There are some Satanists that believe, but that's a whole different Satanist.
Again, it's basically wording it so that they get specifically who they want in there.
Oh, you want to more about that?
Okay.
If we're talking specifics now, a principal at each school may refuse to include any volunteer chaplain on the list of developed pursuant to a subsection. The principal determines that either the volunteer school chaplain fails to meet the requirements prescribed in the previous section, or allowing the volunteer chaplain to provide support services or students will be contrary to the pedagogical interest of the school.
All right, translate that again. That was a lot of word salad for me.
So the principal of the school can determine if a chaplain
Right.
meets the requirements, right? First, they have to
Okay.
meet those requirements of got to be from a religious group, got to be 7 years, got to have a degree, right?
Right.
Reasonable-ish,
Uh-huh.
right? But what gets problematic is when it says contrary to the pedagogical interest of the school, which means the belief of the school
So
to the
AKA
culture.
principal.
The principal.
gets to decide.
The principal gets to decide
It's
if the
his or
chaplain
hers beliefs.
meets the culture of the school.
So it boils down to the final say comes from the principal.
Right. And if he says, well,
So none of that
So-
matters. It's just whatever the hell the principal wants. That's what happens.
so let's say there is a Jewish synagogue in the district,
Right.
right? And they meet on a regular basis like they're supposed to.
Mhm.
The rabbi has been doing it for 10 years. He's got a degree in theology,
Right.
right? They've been doing it. And he applies to be a chaplain,
Right.
right? Because he wants to do good things.
Right. Uh-huh.
The principal could say, no, we're a Christian school
And you can't
and you
come.
can't come because your Jewish faith doesn't align with the culture of this school.
AKA what I say.
Yes,
Mhm.
that is exactly what this bill is doing.
Right. So it cuts out a lot of different people, but to get back to the most important part of all, they do not have professional training to handle children's mental health.
Yeah,
It is a
this-
whole different ballpark with children's mental health versus adult mental health.
So this will cause more suicide
Exactly.
because they don't know how to handle these issues.
No, you need specific training. It's
Yes.
child psychology. It's the way kids, minors, because teenagers, young kids, all of them, their minds function severely differently than adults do. They're
Yes.
not developed. Even as teenagers, no, your minds are not developed either. And kids see any adult as an authority, so they will take a hold of what they're said.
Mhm.
Even if it's misinformed, they will not know that. Kids do not see things the same way adults see things, and they are not going to get the help that they need.
Right.
And when you have, say, LGBTQ, they might not even go to counseling because you're talking this religious chaplain who's basically going to shame them and try and convert them and all this other crap.
Right. And it could be the only or the only
Therapy.
counselor that they have
thank you.
access to
Yeah, exactly.
because the school decided not to spend money on a licensed counselor and
Mhm.
got a chaplain for free.
And that's also my point. That the fact that they're volunteer,
Mhm.
what's going to happen is they're going to start getting rid of the licensed trained therapist,
Right.
so that they can save $1 with this cheap free one
Right.
who is not trained, and it's going to have dire consequences.
I see one way worse consequence. Well, maybe not way worse, but terrible consequence from this.
Mm-hmm.
The church is known to harbor pedophiles.
Mm-hmm.
We're giving them open access to more children.
Exactly.
So,
and it's one-on-one. So
they go into a room and they're not allowed to talk about what happens in the room.
Well, it's the same thing as like confession, but they're not confessing.
Well, at least with confession, there's generally a wall.
Yeah,
right?
This is closed doors.
This is closed door stuff.
And it's not necessarily going to be the case for
no,
most
it's not.
cases.
But the
potential is there.
The potential is definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are they doing background checks on these?
Oh, I severely doubt it.
No, they're never going to.
Because they don't have to abide by any law requirements because they get exemption just for being religious, which that's a whole nother fucking story. That is asinine that they do not have to abide by the same goddamn rules and licensing and requirements just because they get to say, I'm religious. Mm-hmm. It's bullshit.
Yeah, that's been driving me bonkers for years.
The fact that it's still continuing is insane.
Yes.
That they are allowed to continue. I mean, that's fine if they want to be religious and claim religion and blah, blah, blah. But you should still have to adhere to the same laws and requirements. They're put there for reasons, for safety reasons. And I'm not talking just for kids. I'm talking so many things I can think off the top of my head that they don't have to have the same damn requirements. For example, like when you do a daycare, licensed daycares are severely strict on their safety features. You take a religious daycare, they don't have to do any of it. I mean, even fire safety.
I know.
They don't have to do any of it. It's mind-boggling. They don't have to lock up shit. They don't have to do anything. And they get these exemptions time after time after time with everything they touch. And this, again, will be another example.
Yeah.
And I think it is absolutely devastating for any state that allows this.
Right. Speaking of exemptions.
Okay.
Let's move on to the next story.
Yes, please.
Well, the Diocese of Springfield, which is a Catholic diocese, obviously, is suing the state over its amended Human Rights Act. The law, designed to protect employees from harassment related to reproductive choices, is being challenged as a violation of religious freedom and free speech.
Wait, how do they put that together?
Well, let's get into it. So the state's definition of harassment, which includes unwelcome conduct regarding employees' use of contraception, fertility treatment, and abortion care.
Okay.
Right? So the diocese, and along with Pregnancy Care Center Rockford, argues the law dictates how religious employees must speak and act about employees' voluntary reproductive decisions like abortion, contraception, and sterilization.
No, it doesn't.
They claim it renders them powerless to control deeply theological internal matters and to separate themselves from conduct that fatally undermines their mission and message.
Wait a minute. Okay, so translate this for me, who's really dumb and it's late.
So the law says you can't. You know what unwelcome conduct is, right? In sexual harassment, it's whether
they're bugging me, get away from me.
So whether the person doing it knows it or not,
right?
It's all about the perception of
the person
right. So
having
that's
an
unwelcome
address
conduct,
to the right? Yeah,
right. So what has happened with this law is they say, well, you can't do that in regards to women's health, contraception, fertility, abortion, all that stuff. You can't. That's also considered part of harassment. When you talk about those things.
Oh, just talking about them? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, just talking about them or doing things in regards to that is unwelcome.
Okay.
Right? So remember, it's the person being
right. No,
talked
I
to
got that part.
determines
I was
whether
just
it's unwelcome.
trying to determine the whole contraception, fertility treatments. And
the diocese wants to force their religion onto their employees, whether their employees are Catholic or not.
Okay, and how is it that they want to do that?
Well, they're arguing that the law prevents them from hiring only those who abide by their religious beliefs, effectively claiming a right to enforce their theological views.
So they basically only want to hire people like them.
Yeah, they only want to hire people who have the same religious beliefs as them, which is...
Again, it's discriminatory.
Right, but religions get exceptions.
See, it comes around and around and around.
Right.
And okay, so it's not that not even remotely close that it is what is it? They're saying
It-
violation of their freedom of speech and all that
Right.
crap. No, they're just whining because they're not being allowed to discriminate.
Right.
Is what they're whining about.
So the Illinois Human Rights Act aims to ensure a workplace free of discrimination based on reproductive choices. That's what it's for.
Right.
And they want to impose their religious doctrine on employees, regardless of the employee's beliefs.
So therefore, do they not see it as they are taking away the other person's freedoms?
They don't care.
Oh,
that's the difference.
That's what I'm saying. How freaking hypocritical can you be? And they're supposed to be so, almighty and stuff, but they're okay with ripping other people's, freedoms away. As long as they, get to discriminate and have everything their way, it's okay.
So, the plaintiffs are represented by Alliance Defending Freedom, and they're known to have a bunch of stupid lawsuits.
Yeah.
They have been suing stupidity forever.
Because it's constantly a thing. Constantly a thing. I don't understand, I say I don't understand, and yet I do understand, the whole we have to control what everybody does with their body thing, because they have to stick their nose in everything and have everything their way and yada yada. But it's really getting freaking old and sickening how they're okay with ripping other people's rights away,
right,
as long as it aligns with what they're trying to get to.
Exactly. And that's what this whole case is about. They want to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
So they want to discriminate against people, but they don't want the state to say, no, you can't discriminate against people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They want to control everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And they take it to, these bills and things because they want it so, and they want it now. And, here, part of it is, I will still bring it back to who's in office and why so much of this is being pushed through, because they're basically looking at, the teachers out of the room, everybody do whatever you want,
right,
whatever you want as fast as you can before they get back.
Right.
And that's essentially what this whole, I lost my train of thought. This whole situation is right now with stupid in office. Everybody's pushing as much as they can, as fast as they can, while they can.
Yeah. And churches have been trying to do this for years.
But it's
the
more
problem
successful now.
Yeah, I was going to say they are definitely being more successful now.
Right.
And that's a big problem.
And that's what I mean by they're trying to shove it in as fast as they can, which is why we're seeing so many yes, of course, they've been doing it for a long time, but it's like overwhelming all of these different discriminating bills. And I find it ridiculous that I can't wait for it to be over, I guess I could say.
Well, it's never going to be over.
Well, no, not just that, just this whole 4 years thing, because the crazy has gone off the rails crazy, and it's exhausting, and it's only March.
It's only March.
It's only March in the first year.
We haven't even got 90 days in yet.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. The amount of bills trying to get passed and pushed through, and it's like a tidal wave,
Mm-hmm.
And it's technically a tidal wave of just the nastiest we can be to each other. The nastiest we can be, rip away everyone's rights as long as I get what I want. I don't give a crap who I'm stomping on to do it.
Right.
It's disgusting.
So, speaking of more exemptions, I believe that's our theme for the show. I don't know why. It just works out that way. So, there was a battle in West Virginia over vaccine mandates.
Uh-huh.
And it's a stark example of clash between public health and religious exemptions.
Yeah.
So the House delegates rejected Senate Bill 460, which should have introduced religious exemption to the state's strict school vaccination laws.
Okay.
So currently, and now again, West Virginia only allows medical exemptions, and that's continued to high vaccination rates and low rates of preventable diseases like measles and polio.
Right.
Weirdly enough, as backwoods as West Virginia they have one of the highest vaccination rates in the country.
Do they now?
They do.
Oh,
Right. That's because of laws like this that
Right.
don't allow stupid, frivolous
right.
exemptions. Right.
And-
You have to have an actual medical exemption signed
Right.
by a doctor.
Right.
Right. It's pretty restrictive. So you can't just say, "Oh, we have a medical restriction."
Right. You actually have to
You
prove
prove
it.
it.
You got to back up what you're saying.
Right. So there was a bit of a debate on this.
Mhm.
And Delegate Keith Marple said West Virginia needs to look after its children. We have a great record of not having polio, not having a lot of these other diseases.
Yeah.
Are we going to protect them, or are we going to let them take their chances? He highlighted the success of vaccines and eradicating diseases like polio and a point backed by the CDC.
Right.
So vaccines work.
So are they currently requiring the kids to wear masks at school?
No,
Oh, I thought that's what you were talking
no,
about.
this is vaccines.
Oh, vaccines. Skip this part.
Well, we did talk about a story earlier that would
Is
have,
that where?
yeah, it would have allowed
Oh, so this is just
kids
about
not
vaccine-
to wear masks.
Yeah, you and I were talking about that. All right, so skip all of that part.
right? But Delegate Kathy Hess Krause, a Republican, argued for individual liberty, stating, "At the heart of the legislation is a simple but powerful principle. Parents deserve the right to make medical decisions for their children without coercion. These are their children, not the state's."
Yeah, but if you don't protect the children because their parents are stupid, who's going to protect them?
So, case in point, the measles outbreak,
Yes, going rampant.
right?
Hmm.
So, one of the children that died, their parents are anti-vaxxers.
Yep.
And even after their child died, they are still anti-vaxxers.
I
And they have like
don't-
4 other children.
And technically, I'm sorry, I think that they should be watched by children's services, because they are now, because of the fact that they are anti-vax, their child died due
Mhm.
to it. They are now technically a threat to their children.
They are.
If they are still currently anti-vaxxers and going to do so with their other children. That's the whole point of child services, child protective services. They need to be watched and monitored to where if they start running into where these kids are getting sick and the parents aren't going to do anything, they need to step in. Now, the fact that they've already lost one child, they absolutely should be watched and monitored, because they're actually no different than someone stalking and killing someone at this point.
In my opinion, and I've said this, anybody that's listened to this show any amount of time
Mhm.
knows my view on vaccine deniers. I believe they are baby murderers,
They are, because your children don't get the choice.
right? Yeah, children don't get a choice. And there are children out there who cannot take vaccines.
Mhm.
They are medically
unable
to. They are allergic to whatever's in it,
Right.
and all sorts of different things.
For different reasons.
Or they have cancer,
Which
or they
means-
have an autoimmune disease, which means they can't take these vaccines because
Right.
it will kill their immune system.
Which means these kids who anti-vax carry it and pass it on to them.
Right.
Instead
And
of
these
getting
kids
getting the vaccine.
who have no say in it whatsoever are dying.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what pisses me off. There is no faster way to get me to unfriend you in any case than being anti-vax, right? You can be pro whatever the hell you want. I would rather you be a fucking Nazi than anti-vax,
Oh, hell yeah.
right?
Because you're not going to kill kids immediately anyway.
I mean, you will
should say.
eventually.
I was going to say eventually.
But
by
you don't.
that, yeah.
Well,
And the fact that kids don't get a say-so. I
Right,
think
and that's
is
my
the
biggest deal.
The parents are responsible for protecting them, and when they are anti-vax, they are not protecting them. They are allowing, like that child that died.
yeah, and that pisses me off more than anything else, right? Anti-science, be a stupid fucking flat earther. I don't give a shit, but do not be anti-vax.
No.
Vaccines have saved millions and millions of lives. We have eradicated polio.
And yet some of this old school shit's coming back.
We had measles eradicated
Yep.
until a couple years ago,
Uh-huh.
right? Whooping cough. When's the last time you heard of a kid having whooping cough?
I have
It
no
doesn't
idea.
happen as often, but it's coming back,
Yep.
right?
And a lot of this is coming back.
And I just cannot in good conscience allow anybody to spread anti-vax.
Not when we have the technology to prevent it.
It's
There's
been-
no excuse.
We've had that technology since the Revolutionary War, right?
Right, and these anti-vaxxers who sit there and say, you're gonna just
You're
I don't
poisoning.
know, yeah, there's robots in the vaccine,
Oh my God.
tiny little microscopic robots, whatever the weird whatever.
I wish
crap
there were
that they
microscopic robots in there. It would work better.
said. I mean, it's crazy, and I think not, and it's the same thing for children who are with parents who don't believe in taking them to a doctor or
Oh.
a hospital and let
Yeah.
them sit there and watch them die because
Yeah, I don't
they
see how
get
anybody
sick
can do that.
and they're getting sicker and sicker and they still refuse to that's fucking murder in
That
my
is.
opinion.
And in most states, that is manslaughter.
It absolutely
By
should be.
So being anti-vax should be manslaughter because you're doing that exact same thing. Those people, that family in Texas should be charged with child neglect and manslaughter because that's exactly what happened.
Their other children should be
They
monitored.
could have prevented that child from getting, or at least made it harder for that child to get measles. But no, they made it easy.
And yet they're still not willing to protect their other children.
Yeah.
Is that basically what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously, child protective services need to be watching those children.
Yeah. But anyway, good for West Virginia for not allowing medical exemptions.
No,
Or not allowing
I was
religious
gonna
exemptions.
say, wait,
Jesus
not
Christ.
medical.
Not allowing
Yeah,
religious
no, I'm
exemptions
sorry.
because I'm tired of it.
Religious. I'm so sick of the religious get out of card exemptions, and they're pushing everything they can with, oh, I'm religious, so that's against my beliefs.
Yeah.
I don't give a flying fuck what your religion is. No,
All
no to that.
Let's move on to something different.
Different. What is
Different.
different?
Well, it's still the same thing, but it's different.
Okay, if you say
Um,
so.
This is a case of a group using a religious exemption that wasn't intended.
Okay.
This is a case unfolding in Utah, and it's raising some crucial questions about the limits of religious liberty. So a year ago, Utah passed SB 150, strengthening the religious freedom protections in the state. This law, State Level Religious Freedom Restoration Act, or RFRA, was designed to give Utahns more power to challenge government actions that interfere with their religious beliefs.
Yep.
Right? We've seen RFRA before, and it had good idea because it was started with the story of a Native American church. They used peyote in their ceremonies, right? And the law allowed them, the law
to legally use
peyote, right?
Right.
During ceremonies. They couldn't use it outside of ceremonies, but during the ceremony.
Right.
So it made sense, right? But in recent years, they have turned RFRA into a license to discriminate, a license to ignore laws because they're like, you're infringing on my religious rights,
Typical.
right? RFRA could be used in a vaccine mandate, right?
Oh yeah.
And that's what they're trying to do.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So that's why I don't like RFRA. It initially started off good, and they've turned it into
And then,
a tool.
as usual, they grab it and turn it
Right.
into shit.
All right. So that brings us up to now.
Okay.
Utah and the Singularism,
That's a word.
which is a new faith using psychedelic mushrooms in their ceremonies. They are claiming the government officials in Provo, Utah, violated Utah's new RFRA, among other laws, when they seized the group's psilocybin and scriptures. They're drugs.
So basically, they want to use mushrooms and say, "Hey, dude, it's my religion."
It's who's to say what a
So-
religion is?
Exactly. Been there, done that. You can make up your own religion. Nobody says you can't.
Right? Judge Parrish stated that the guarantee of religious liberty to mean anything, the laws must protect unfamiliar religions equally with familiar ones, both in design and practice. Right? And that was the whole point of the Native American church one. So Singularism founder Bridger Lee Jensen says his goal was to share his spiritual beliefs with others and enable them to deepen their faith through psilocybin, I don't know, mushroom tea ceremonies,
Okay.
just as he has. So he wants to spread his psychedelic drug use to
Uh-huh.
other people.
Right.
Whatever, it's their religion. I don't care.
It's
Right.
Yeah.
They're not hurting others. Right. So we opened the Singularism Spiritual Center, and after officials seized his mushrooms, he challenged them, citing religious freedom protections.
Right.
Right. And much like the peyote cases, they argue Singularism is motivated by a desire to sell illegal drugs, not practice and promote religious faith.
Oh. Uh-huh.
So that's what the state is saying.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so we have this issue here where it's Utah who created a bill that they wanted to use so they could push Mormonism more.
Right.
Guarantee that's what it was for.
Of course. We
Right.
all know that.
And they're mad that a non-traditional religion is using that same bill
Uh-huh.
to say, well, I get to use mushrooms.
Right, because, they want it all for themselves. No one else is allowed to use it.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to see what happens with this.
Yeah.
Right? Because if they strike down, let's say it goes to Supreme Court and they say, no, you can't use this, then that's going to strike down all RFRA cases in the state or
It
in the country.
should, but will it?
It should negate every other RFRA law in the country.
It should, but
Should.
will it? And if they do shoot it down, like they most likely will, they're not smart enough to figure out that that's going to cause that effect, not realizing it.
Right.
But that they're going to say no to this one, but then when they bring up their other one that they want, they're going to be like, oh, well, that's okay. And, but this is different from that one,
Because,
that kind of thing.
Well, if let's say they push this and say, well, it's just so you can use drugs, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, then we have to go up to Catholic Church for giving out wine.
I was gonna say,
And giving out wine to children.
And that's literally what I was going to say. The entire time you're reading, in the back of my mind, I was remembering going to Sunday school and Catholic school.
Now they might give grape juice to children, but the whole point is that they're giving out wine and they don't have a liquor license.
It was not grape juice. Oh, and that's a really good point. I didn't think about
They
that. You're
get an
right.
exemption because it's the blood of Christ.
Right. That's a real. I didn't.
They
even
don't
think
have a license to sell alcohol
because it was wine. It wasn't grape juice.
Yeah. Okay. I've never had sacrament, so I don't know.
No. Anyways, but I never thought about that. Even the wine with the adults kind of thing, they don't have a liquor license because they're religious.
You don't have to have a liquor license to give away wine. You have to have it to sell it.
Oh.
But that's still
But
they're
it's
giving
beside the
people
point.
alcohol without a license to distribute alcohol.
Exactly.
They're not a bar. They're not a restaurant.
Right.
They're a church.
Uh-huh.
So
it's like you have to have a CDL to be a bus driver.
Yeah. But you don't have to have a CDL to drive a vehicle that's bigger than a bus.
Yeah.
If
those
it's an
giant
RV.
That's
another
nuts.
stupid
That's
exemption.
a whole thing. That's a whole different thing.
Mm.
But yeah, it's the religious exemptions are phenomenal on what they get away with just by screaming it's against my religion. Literally.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, the amounts of things if you think about it.
Yes.
And it's absolutely utter bullshit in some cases that there's no way in hell they should get an exemption because it's dangerous.
It is.
There's several things that it's dangerous there should be no exemption when it comes to safety.
No.
And yes, of course, we all know I'm going on kids because that's kind of my thing. But when it comes to potential of harming anyone, there should be no exemption for that.
I mean,
I'm sorry, there's just no exemption for going around safety features or protocols.
There's no exemptions for like human sacrifice, which is good. I'm surprised there's not though.
Well, I was gonna say, you're right, but maybe there will be.
I guarantee you, if the Christian church required a human sacrifice, there would be an exemption for human sacrifices.
Oh, at the rate we're going, that'll
We're
start
getting
happening
close, yeah.
soon. Or all the women will be wearing red handsmaid outfits or something, because that's where they want to go as well. Controlling that whole aspect. You don't get a say so. You're going to have that kid whether you want it or not.
Basically.
Yeah, it's all nuts.
I am an old man, and most people hate me, but I don't like them either, so that makes it all even.
It's time for Potter.
It's time for Potter. We haven't had one in a couple weeks. I don't
don't think so.
I don't know. I have to go back through the show.
Yeah, what's up with Potter this week?
All right, so we brought it back, and we're headed to the state of Minnesota.
Minnesota.
And State Senator Justin Eichhorn?
I don't think so. Ichorn.
Ichhorn?
Maybe
I don't
it's
know.
Ichorn.
I don't know. I probably should have.
Sorry, butchering it.
No, actually, I'm not.
Okay. Oh, it is Potter, so okay.
Yep. So let's start with a bill he co-sponsored last year.
Okay.
It's HF 4687 and SF 4630 that are essentially a legislative manifestation of chemtrails conspiracy theory.
Wait, the legislation manifestation of
So
chemtrails?
basically, he created a bill that was the chemtrail conspiracy theory.
Oh, okay, go.
Okay. And it's a little weird. It's a wild,
already weird.
Yeah, it's a wild mix of pseudoscience and conspiracy. It includes terms like xenobiotic electromagnetism and fields.
Whoa.
Xenobiotic electromagnetism.
Frick is that?
Nothing.
Okay.
It has
I feel
zero
better.
meaning. It's buzzwords that sound scientific.
I know. I was like, no.
So
I-
xenobiotic, I feel like means alien.
Sure, we'll
So
go with
xeno,
that.
right? Xeno
Uh,
is alien, right?
Yeah, okay.
And biotic, I don't know,
Who cares?
right? And electromagnetism, we know what that is.
You're right.
Experts have actually said that that doesn't even make sense. They're just trying to give it a scientific veneer, right?
Uh-huh.
It demands county sheriffs investigate citizen complaints of polluting atmospheric activity and even empowers the governor to call the National Guard to ground aircraft suspected of spreading supposed pollutants.
Oh, so they'll just ground every
Anything,
plane that flies
anything that's
overhead.
putting out a chemtrail.
Specifically commercial flights.
Oh, yeah.
Or any large plane.
Right?
Oh my god, this is stupid.
And it aims to ban, get this, weather engineering, cloud seeding, stratospheric aerosol injection, or other atmospheric activity that's harmful to humans or the environment, as well as emission of xenobiotic agents and excessive electromagnetic radiation.
Because all that's happening.
Yes.
We're cloud seeding.
Okay.
We're throwing aerosol injection. Oh my god.
So let's break down. Excessive electromagnetic radiation. No idea what he's talking about here. Humans are not susceptible to electromagnetic radiation in any form.
Maybe.
I mean, unless you've got metal in your body.
Well, I was going to say, I think
But
he needs
it's-
to read a book and learn what he's talking about a little
I
better.
work with electromagnetic.
Well, I know that. I'm just
But I'm
saying
just-
all these big words he's using. He needs to kind of read and learn them a
and
little more.
there is no such thing as weather engineering. Okay, if we could engineer the weather, there would be no famine.
He thinks it's cloudy with a chance of meatballs.
Yeah,
Because we can control the weather. We just send up a little probe and I want snow today.
and what the hell are xenobiotic agents?
I don't know. I think he just likes the word.
Yeah, obviously.
I really do.
It also directs law enforcement to encourage public reporting of these activities and investigate them without limitation.
Oh,
Without limitation.
well, and that's the other thing. The public complains and we have to send in police and the National Guard. Are you kidding?
Yep. I don't even know where to go with it. I remember when I first
none of this makes any sense.
when I first ran into this chemtrail thing, it was a video of this lady spraying vinegar in the air. I'm like, what the hell is she doing? And then I was like, oh,
my
she
God.
thinks the vinegar reacts with the metal
She's
xenobiotic agents in the air or whatever the hell it is.
yeah, because she uses vinegar to clean and dilute things.
Right. So
and
she's spraying it in the air
to cleanse it
with a hand sprayer.
that shoots like what 2 feet above her head, maybe.
6 inches, right? So she's
Well,
just
depends on the sprayer.
yeah. So she's literally just covering herself in vinegar.
In vinegar.
I mean, I guess she's cleaner.
Oh my god. People are nuts.
Okay.
This is nuts.
Luckily, it went nowhere.
And the fact that it wasted time
Yeah.
with this stupid bill.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if I was sitting there on this, I couldn't not laugh.
You would have to laugh at it.
I couldn't not laugh while they're sitting here trying to introduce this bill.
Well, how about another bill he introduced?
He likes-
This one would get Trump derangement syndrome officially recognized as a mental illness.
Oh, this is that?
Yeah, you heard that.
Yeah.
Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
defines the supposed syndrome as the acute onset of paranoia in otherwise normal persons that is in reaction to the policies and presidencies of President Donald J. Trump. They even claim it produces an inability to distinguish between legitimate policy differences and signs of psychic pathology in President Donald J. Trump's behavior.
Oh my God, they worship this dude.
They do. So any criticism of Trumperdink could be seen as
get your ass thrown in jail is what he's hoping for.
Well, in this case, he's hoping to get them certified with Trump derangement syndrome, which is mental illness, and then you don't have to listen to them anymore because they're mentally ill.
Oh, so they can say we don't have to listen to them. They're crazy because we also don't do anything with our mentally.
You got Trump derangement syndrome.
Well, no, I was just also saying, that's what it's for. So we don't have to listen. They are not legit. They don't have any accreditation. But we also don't do anything with our actual medically ill. So, So, oh my God, this is so stupid.
Unsurprisingly, TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, isn't a recognized medical condition, and it's not in the DSM and never has been.
The way they worship this man is mind-boggling. I mean, they worship him like he's God, like he's Jesus.
Yes.
And I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Like,
I just saw something. He went to a wrestling match earlier this week, and they said that the wrestlers won because Trump was there.
Again, see?
Yeah.
God.
I think it was Jim Jordan.
Either way, what Kool-Aid are these people drinking? I mean, because Jesus Christ, the way, and he just came onto the scene and everybody just drool over him. I don't get it. That man could give two shits about anyone but himself.
Yep. So Democrats were kind of angry about this bill.
Yeah.
The Senate Majority Leader Aaron Murphy called it wasteful, frivolous, shame.
I was going to say that.
And possibly the worst bill in Minnesota's history.
I don't know. That other one's a doozy.
Yeah. She argued it trivializes real mental health issues and is an affront to free speech.
That's a good point.
Right?
That's a very good
point. It
point.
has zero chance because
course.
Democrats control the Senate there. And Governor Walz from Minnesota. He's not even going to sign it, even if it did pass.
But again, this is it's like they could just make up anything. Let's go throw it in as a bill.
Well,
it's such a waste of time. And again, this is what I mean by all this stupid shit coming in as bills,
right?
And they're wasting time for getting shit done that needs to get done.
Right.
It's nothing's going to get done. That's just it.
Let's get to the real reason he's here for this award.
Potter.
Yes. He has been arrested in Bloomington on suspicion of soliciting an underage girl for sex.
Oh, Jesus, Mary. I think he's the mental one.
Uh-huh. So, Einhorn, I don't know.
Whatever.
40-year-old man arranged to meet a 17-year-old girl online who was actually a detective in a sting operation.
Which means they had been watching him
to
create the sting in the first place. Which means he has a history of doing this shit.
Oh, absolutely. So he showed up at the arranged meeting point in his truck and was immediately taken into custody.
Yay. Does he stay? Is he still there?
Well, let's get into that.
Okay.
So the police chief didn't mince words, saying, as a 40-year-old man, if you come to Orange Jumpsuit District looking to have sex with someone's child, you expect that we're going to lock you up. He also called on the legislature to take this type of conduct more seriously.
Yeah.
So Republicans, weirdly enough, reacted rather swiftly.
Oh.
They released a statement almost immediately asking for his resignation.
Oh, well,
saying,
that's good to hear.
This alleged conduct demands immediate resignation.
Good.
Which he's done.
Good.
This came directly from his Hennepin County jail cell just moments before he was about to be expelled by the Senate.
I was just thinking while you were saying that, I bet they're also thinking, finally, something we can get his ass out of here for so he'll stop bringing in these stupid bills. Because I'm sorry, even the Republicans listening to him bringing in this bill have got to say, are you crazy? Are you kidding me? You're actually doing that?
Yep. But it gets worse for him. He's having a very bad week.
Okay, that's good.
Federal judge has blocked his release, and the reason is really troubling.
Okay.
They allege that he attempted to hide evidence in his St. Paul apartment. We're talking about trying to get a laptop removed, a phone found reset to factory settings, and even lying about having a firearm, which was later discovered.
We know it's on all of those.
Prosecutors argue that his post-arrest conduct made clear that he does not intend to be truthful or to respect the legal process. They also raise concerns about him potentially victimizing other minors if released.
Absolutely. If he's got all that stuff on his techie, your laptop, all your screens, I guess you could say, he's got an issue.
Wiping your phone is a bad idea.
He's also stupid.
Yeah, a full factory reset, you got something to hide.
Big time.
Yeah.
And that's a good point, that he does not respect legal process, meaning he should not have the seat that he had.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he does not respect the law.
Here's the problem. He has a Trump derangement syndrome.
You think?
And
Usually, I swear, when they give it out, it's really what's going on with them.
So he obviously worships Trump.
You think?
And we know Trump likes his young girls.
Oh, God, you're making me want to puke.
Right? I mean, Trump hung out with Epstein.
Yeah, I know.
We know that.
Nauseating. And
so it's no surprise that he would attract this type of person.
Yeah. No, because that's like the whole circle.
So not only is he facing serious charges for soliciting sex with a minor.
Right.
Now he's into evidence tampering.
Right.
Right. And what was the other one? Obstruction of justice.
Right.
So
and then
all
when
these
they
felonies,
find out what's on his screens.
Right. Once they find that out, he's going to face a lot more, because I guarantee you there's something hidden in his special folders.
Oh, I can have ideas of what's in those special folders, and it's awful.
Yep. Governor Tim Walz has already called for a special election to fill his vacated seat, set for late April.
Good.
Right. And that's still going. And to add to his woes, yesterday his wife filed for divorce.
I would have done it a shit ton sooner.
Yeah. So
because he's been crazy from the get-go.
Oh, I guarantee it.
All this stuff.
But this must have been the breaking point. Which
I seriously, whenever they project onto someone else, it's really what they're talking about themselves.
Every single time. Always.
If you ever look at anything that they're all saying, these whack job Republican ones,
doesn't even have to be the whack jobs.
Well, no, and not even that. I'm just thinking of some of them that have been in the media, and they'll say this about something, and it's actually what they would do.
Right, it's what they have done.
Or what they have done, exactly. Right. And I'm glad he's in jail.
He's going to stay in jail for a very long time.
I hope he does. And not get out anytime soon, and never be allowed around children.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, there's a whole lot younger on his screen
absolutely.
than 17-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just sick.
That's
and he talks about mental illness.
Gosh, I just had a vision of walking up and just punching him in the face.
He wouldn't be the only person.
Why do people have to be so awful?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't get it.
Anyway, it'll be a while before he gets his trial, because he does get a trial.
Of course he does.
It's frustrating.
I think he's going to fry regardless, but he sits in jail in the meantime, so that's good. And then once he gets his trial, which I guarantee you he will not be successful in, he'll sit in jail for a lot longer.
Yep.
Hopefully a very long time,
yep.
But unfortunately that's not always the case.
No, it's not always the case.
So hopefully.
All right. That's our Potter Award for this week.
That's our Potter Award, and I think I'm all done yakking.
Yeah, I'm pretty much done yakking for this evening too.
Very done. It's so late. Hope everybody has a good week.
Yep, we'll do this again later this week.
We'll yak another time.
We always like to hear your feedback or an email at podcast@secularyakking.com.
More input.
All comments are welcome. We like to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly.
If you like our show, head over to your podcast directory of choice and leave us a 5-star review. If you really like the show, support the show on our Patreon page.
I'd buy that for $1.
And we'll be back next week with more yakking to please your eardrums.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle.
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle.
Goodbye.